girl with a preppy vibe. Came to the spot with a friend of mine. She caught my eye. From the beginning, I was hooked. I can't tell a lie. Fresh, dressed, and fly. I respect her mind. Some dude trying to impress, but looking goofy at the same time. He bugging, she looking. I'm going for mine. Confidently, I approach for that eye-to-eye contact. She smiling while.
Hey y'all, welcome to the check-in. Let me get my camera straight. I'm your girl, Sim Fashionista. Yes. Welcome. Happy Monday. Okay. We have a lot we want to get into today. So, as you may have seen from the thumbnail, Trump has put out a message saying the clock is ticking. So, a warning to Iran. All right. We also have updates regarding the second in command over in ISIS was eliminated. We heard about that. Trump's approval rating. Okay, we're gonna also talk about the OpenAI lawsuit, as well as the Trump Rededicate 250 ceremony. Yes, we're gonna get into that as well. Okay, let me go ahead and put my little chat in, my welcome to you guys, and we are going to get going. Okay, so it's welcome to the check-in. Yes, if you like the vibes, then please subscribe. Okay. We got Mr. David Zarowski in the house. Hey, how you doing? Yes. How was your weekend? Yes. Let me get this on here real fast, and we're gonna get kicked off into this first our first clip, y'all. But yes, as I had mentioned before, okay. As I mentioned before, Trump put out a warning to Iran via Truth Social saying, hey, uh, time is of the essence, you know, TikTok goes the clock, basically. Okay. Let's go ahead and get into what he had to say, because I guess he's tired of playing, I guess he's tired of waiting around on this ceasefire situation. Let's get into it.
We are back with a Fox News alert. President Trump is telling Iran, quote, the clock is ticking. After speaking with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu earlier today, reports suggest the U.S. and Israel could take military action against Iran as soon as tomorrow. Ashley Webster joins us live from Tel Aviv with the latest. Ashley?
Yeah, hey there, Tommy. I think there is a sense in Israel tonight, certainly, that the chance of more military action against Iran is just a matter of time. As you say, President Trump having a talk with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu today lasted about 30 minutes. Shortly after that meeting, President Trump taking to social media, warning Iran,
You
look,
mean with
the clock is
Netanyahu?
ticking. Time is of the essence, he put it. Meanwhile, Netanyahu himself holding a security cabinet meeting, a smaller version of that because it was just with his top military leaders and advisors as they decide their next step. It is believed that the U.S. and Israel are certainly making intense preparations, as one person put it, for renewed attacks against Iran. But Iran's foreign minister says that makes no sense. Take a listen.
An attack on our nuclear facilities has already taken place once, and they claim they completely destroyed them. Yet now they are once again talking about attacking the facilities. These contradictory statements truly indicate the depth of America's confusion regarding their objectives in this war.
Why does he have to say the confusion for the Americans? Why he just can't say President Trump? I'm just asking. But yeah, I do see his point about the confusion, because they did take quite a few hits on their infrastructure in regards to energy. And so I don't know. Yeah, let this keep going. If you have something in the comments you want to say, please do so.
And meantime, the logjam in the Strait of Hormuz continues. No relief in sight. More than 1,500 commercial ships stuck in this very...
Y'all, he just said that's 1,500 ships stuck in the Strait of Hormuz. They have been in this situation since, when was it? April the 1st? I think it was April 1st when they went into maybe it was March 1st. But anyway, it's been over 60 days. Yeah. And they've been sitting there, 1,500 ships, y'all. That's a lot. Okay, we got Blue Monkey in the house. Welcome. Good morning to you.
Vital waterway. And later on today, meantime, the logjam of ships continuing with Iran saying it will continue to make plans to charge tolls, which is not sitting well with the U.S. Meantime, authorities in Abu Dhabi say a drone attack caused a fire to close a nuclear power plant just west of the city. The UAE saying, look, the targeting of a power plant, whether it's by a principal perpetrator, they say, or one of its proxies, is a dangerous escalation, and that is an understatement, I believe. Tommy, back to you.
Ashley Webster, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right, Joey, bringing it back out to the table. We talked about it yesterday. It seems like it's even closer than it was yesterday. President Trump, seems a little antsy to do something, to make a move. What do you think the chances are we see some action this week?
If all things stay the same, I think it's pretty high. I know President Trump, I mean, our biggest concern for us right now is just depletion of our weapons. We've used a lot of certain things like TACMs, Patriots, THAADs, things that take a little bit longer to replenish that we would need, cruise missiles, things that we would need if China were to make a move or something like that. So that's a concern, and I'm sure they've taken some time to count some beans and bullets and have a plan for that. Because ultimately we'll spend as much money as we need to save our own lives. You saw what we spent to go capture a pilot or retake a pilot so we wouldn't be captured. So that's a concern. But can we win the war? Do we have what it takes to win the war? Of course. Whether we do it from the sky or a landing, it's just what are we willing to spend to do it? And Iran sits there, and if they're backed into a corner, what other option do they think they have? So it feels like we're on an inevitable path unless something like China comes in and says, hey, we're taking your lifeline away. I don't know what off-ramps there are at this point.
Anita, to that point, when we hear the foreign minister essentially taunting President Trump, saying, you said you got our facilities before, now you're saying you need to get them again. I mean, it feels like a taunt to me when I listen to it, or the translation of it anyway. You mentioned the commercial break. It doesn't feel like Iran is scared. Maybe that's a posture. I'm sure it is. But what do you think their calculation is here?
Well, I don't know. I guess they didn't read the president's Truth Social post. But in the post, he says, clock is ticking. They better get moving fast or there won't be anything left of them. Time is of the essence. I mean, we've seen President Trump make these threats before and carry them out. So they should know by now that when the president says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. And then the other question here is how.
Let me stop her because she just made the comment that, President Trump has made threats before and he typically has carried them out, is what she just said. And then I saw in the comments here, we had Anthony G. Aona, 1324. Welcome to the check-in. He says, how many warnings has he given? He can't even swing. All right. So I thought that was kind of related. So I wanted to call that out. But Bull Monkey, he made a great point here because he was saying that if the 1,500 ships weren't, sitting there, they'll be sitting elsewhere waiting for prices to fluctuate. It's been happening for years. There are as much floating storage facilities as anything. I didn't know that. So thank you for letting me know that right there. I'm getting educated, y'all. I'm open to it. Yes. Then we have David Zabowski saying American military limitations have been exposed in this war. I think I think a lot of folks have said that one. Yeah. We got Yo Vince, welcome to the check-in, saying, what is America doing? What is America doing for real? Question of the day. Okay, let's keep this thing going.
How long can Iran hold on in this economic state that they're in? They haven't been able to export any oil for about a month. Their economy is in trouble. They have skyrocketing inflation. They have shortages of food and basic goods. So how much longer can they be in that position? I think, that's the question.
Maybe they're waiting out what's going on here at home politically. Maybe they're waiting out more infighting and more Democrats bad-mouthing this excursion.
Well, the part of the problem is Iran is using its drone capabilities to go after the UAE and its nuclear facilities. So I think there's pressure still within the Middle East. Hey, United States, continue to do this. The United States took out their Navy. They have no Navy. They took out their Air Force. They have no ability to launch an aircraft. But they have the ability to move some money, pay their terrorists that they've paid in the past. And they do have the ability to launch these low-tech drones and do these little pinpricks, which are quite annoying. And certainly if you're trying to move through the Strait of Hormuz, these ships, that can be deadly. And so there is a lot there. But I tell you, the president can walk and chew gum too, and he has been doing a lot. I love what he did in Nigeria. We will not get enough credit or enough attention because of everything going on in Iran. But he said, when he took out al-Manuki, who is the #2 ISIS leader, that was kinetic action in Nigeria. As I said yesterday, 1 out of every 5 people in Africa live in Nigeria. That is a strong message. Hey, terrorists, you got to stop picking on Christians. You got to stop picking on school kids and little girls. And you know what? If you're going to act like a terrorist, you're going to get treated like a terrorist, and that means you're going to die.
Joey, we'll let you finish out this discussion here as we're, on the eve of a new week. You mentioned that you think probability is how we're going to do something. What does that straight look like?
I'll tell you what we don't know. Now, the Department of War may know, but what we don't know are how many missiles, ballistic missiles, are sitting in tractor trailers around Iran, getting moved around by trucks. We don't know how many drones they have. We don't know what ability to inflict pain, either locally or regionally, is left. I would imagine we've used this time to try and find that out, to use intelligence to calculate that. Another thing is President Trump has said, hey, I'm just going to punch you. And then what's he done? He's extended this treaty, this peace ceasefire. And then he also suspended, what was it, Project Freedom, the idea of going ahead and pushing ships through the strait. So there is some cat and mouse going on here.
I forgot
and
about
Iran's
Project
playing
Freedom.
the only cards they have, I think, which is to try to extend that cat and mouse. What can they offer that doesn't cost them anything that would get President Trump to back off? And I think President Trump is on to the game a little bit.
And I think those in Iran are very well aware that it's primary season.
Yeah.
So that perhaps calculates as well.
Okay, they just ended saying that Iran is probably aware that it's primary season. So someone in the chat had mentioned that David Zarowski, he was saying that Iran is waiting for Trump. Trump only has until November. So they just kind of agree with you on that, basically. What else do we have here? We have Bumaki saying there was a time a couple of years ago where a barrel of crude, Brent crude, was minus $50. Wow. Wow. And then we have Stephanie, welcome back. She was saying that Iran's been sanctioned by America for years. And I was wondering, didn't they lift the sanctions like as part of this conflict? Or maybe I may have got it mixed up. She said UAE is stealing Sudanese gold. Okay. We got Joseph Befo in the house. Welcome. And we had David Zarowski saying the world still runs on oil, so this has reduced the oil supply. And we got SMCM 4588 saying bitch. Okay, y'all. Now I did go on Truth Social. Lord, I done lost my page on here. And I saw where apparently Trump has posted as of 3:01 p.m. This is it. Y'all can't read it, but I'm gonna let you know what it says, okay? He says that I have been asked by the Emir of Qatar, Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, and the President of the United Arab Emirates, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, to hold off on our planned military attack of the Islamic Republic of Iran, which was scheduled for tomorrow. In that serious negotiations are now taking place, and that, in their opinion, as great leaders and allies, a deal will be made, which would be very acceptable to the United States of America, as well as all countries in the Middle East and beyond. This deal will include, importantly, no nuclear weapons for Iran. That was in all caps. Based on my respect for the above-mentioned leaders, I have instructed Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Daniel Kane, and the United States military that we will not, in all caps, be doing the scheduled attack of Iran tomorrow, but have further instructed them to be prepared to go forward with a full, large-scale assault of Iran on a moment's notice in the event that an acceptable deal is not reached. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So he's saying that based on what he was asked by the Emir of Qatar, Saudi Arabia and the UAE, they asked him not to attack Iran tomorrow, and he obliged. So that's what they're talking about here. We have Mr. Larry Pittsburgh saying Trump wants to get back the deal Obama made with Iran so he can take credit for it, and then he can brag about ending the war, of course, without mentioning that he was the one that started the war. Okay. David Zarowski says pinpricks can be damaging. Look at Ukraine damaging Russia oil exports by kinetic drone attacks. We got Johnny Vega back. Welcome. Mark Rowe, message was retracted. We got Stephanie saying UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar are the worst evil bees. Trump is a liar. All right. So we are going to shift gears a little bit because I told you that we're going to talk about what happened over in Nigeria, where they were able to eliminate the second in command of ISIS along with some of his lieutenants, is my understanding. Um, we got Johnny Vegas saying do away with Iran's telecommunication, both phone and interweb. They still got internet over there. I thought they were cutting that off, their internet resources and things like that. We got David saying Saudi is negotiating with Iran now because they are afraid of further damage to their oil infrastructure. I can understand that. Then we got Lit Ski J saying Russia is a terrorist state. Okay. So we're going to switch gears and we're going to see what's going on over here in Nigeria with the ISIS situation. Let's get into it.
Well, take a look. U.S. Africa Command sending this out. And President Trump also confirming that the second in command of ISIS globally has been killed in an operation conducted by U.S. and Nigerian forces in the northeast of Nigeria. President Trump, and by the way, they sent this video out showing some of the military operations as they happened. President Trump announcing the death of Abu Bilal al-Mamnuki in a Truth Social post late last night, and the president of Nigeria is describing it as a, quote, significant example of effective collaboration in the fight against terrorism. Let's bring in retired Marine Intelligence Officer, National Security Analyst, and the host of the Strap podcast, Hal Kempfer. He's here with me. Hal, help us understand, what's the significance of the U.S. and Nigeria working together to take out terrorists?
Well, it's very significant. As you recall, there was a lot of back and forth. President Trump initially was threatening to do military action against terrorists in northern Nigeria unilaterally, not working with the Nigerian government. At least that was the interpretation that was on the international scene. He never quite put it quite that bluntly, but it was very clear that he was pushing for a new relationship with working with the Nigerians on security matters. And I think that's happening. You're seeing it right now. You see this, this at least bilateral. It's a combined operation with Nigeria. It's a combined operation of air and ground forces from what's been reported. It's up in the Lake Chad Basin area. And of course, they killed al-Mamnuki, who is the ostensibly, well, he's kind of the top figure for what's called ISIS of West Africa, which of all the regional ISIS organizations worldwide, to include the one in Syria and Iraq, to include the one in South Asia, the Al-Khorasan ISIS-K, as it's sometimes called, of all those, that's the largest one. It's been very active. It's been a real pain for all the West African countries. And so they took out the leader there, which is a very significant thing. He's also number 2 in ISIS worldwide.
Oh.
So that's a significant targeting operation. He's been hiding in West Africa for
Very
some time.
Significant.
Various different safe houses and other locations, and they were able to track him down. And I imagine beyond the raw kinetics you see, there was a heck of an intelligence operation going on trying to find his location.
So where is ISIS most active lately? My understanding is that it's a decentralized group at this point. So would Nigeria be one of the places where it's most active?
Yeah, well, Nigeria, and I would say the Sahel region of Africa is really where it's most active. So you see Nigeria there, the northern part of Nigeria, that quadrant up there around the Lake Chad Basin, that's where you find a lot of Islamic extremist group, Boko Haram up there. There's another group that's up there. And of course, ISIS operates in that area. And if you look at the countries up there, not just Nigeria, but particularly in the Sahel region proper, Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, that's where you've been seeing a lot of operations. And of course, a lot of stuff they do kind of tends to drift into some of these other countries a little bit further south. But that's where you're seeing ISIS operating. It's where you're seeing other Islamic extremists, like-minded extremists, if you will, operating as well. And they have the largest grouping, at least as far as we know, the largest grouping of operatives of any regional group. It's bigger. It's bigger than what's left in Syria and Iraq. It's bigger than what's in Afghanistan and Central Asia, South and Central Asia, I should say. So, and they've been very, very active. A lot of it doesn't get reported just because of the countries they operate in. You know, if you do a big, spectacular attack in Moscow, it makes the news. You do a big attack in Mali, in the rural areas, may not get that much press coverage.
So the Biden administration, I was reading, they labeled al-Maliki a specially designated global terrorist. You said a little bit about what we know about al-Maliki, but in general, what does our audience need to know about a figure like this?
Well, they need to know that we took out a major operative. I mean, this is not, you know, like taking out al-Baghdadi, the guy who actually founded ISIS, you know, their leader for so long. I mean, that was more significant. But this is significant. You're taking out a leader in the region where ISIS is making its greatest inroads, where it probably poses, I would say, in many ways, its greatest threat. It's a organization that is causing great consternation to a number of key U.S. allies in West Africa and also European allies in West Africa across the board, and has been part of what's destabilized multiple governments in the Sahel region of Africa. So that's a big deal that they were able to target him, not just taking out him, but took out a number of his lieutenants. So a number of those around him who might have been able to step into his role are no longer around either. So I think that's a significant win. You know, it's not going to make ISIS in West Africa disappear, but it's a significant win. It's a successful battle. And I think another part of that is just the fact that we were able to do this working closely with the Nigerians in a combined operation. That's a big win politically.
So let's talk about, since this is the second in command, what do we know about the first in command in ISIS? And do we know what part of the world that person is in?
Well, that's Izz al-Din al-Haddad. And Haddad is, he's a successor, obviously, going, if you go across from, you know, when al-Baghdadi was taken out by us. He currently is somewhere in the Syria-Iraq area. It's not quite clear. He spends a lot of time hiding for very good reasons, as you can imagine. And he is overall. But the thing I would point out is that it's very regional. So it's not like he has the command and control. He certainly, you know, if you look at al-Qaeda, he doesn't have the persuasive command and control that bin Laden had, for example, at least initially. And of course, ISIS was part of that loss of control, which was that al-Qaeda operation basically morphed into ISIS. So that was that loss of control. But you have these regional entities which do a lot of things. As near as I can tell, they do a lot of things autonomously. They don't have to go back and get central approval. So I think this is very significant, what happened here. And now Haddad in Syria and Iraq, you know, everybody's going after them. They lost that huge territory that they had, which at one time was actually more territory than Great Britain. It went well up into Syria, and certainly into and certainly you know, they held Mosul in Iraq, and they were all not quite down to Baghdad, but pretty far south at one point. And the U.S. played a big role working with the Iraqis to push them out, and they got them out of there. But yeah, I mean, he's there, but but he's also, of the three groups I just mentioned, his is the smallest group now. Even though at one time they were estimated to be potentially up to 200,000, they're not that anymore. They're a very small group, maybe a few thousand at most.
Interesting. Okay, y'all. So they have unalived, eliminated the number 2 for ISIS. I guess he was hiding out in Nigeria. So let me see what you guys were saying here in the chat. Now I did see where is it at? Johnny Vegas said he's number 1. Thank you for your support. Number 2 is David Zarowski, and Bull Monkey is number 3. Thank you for your support. Yes. We have, what do we have here? We have I am a warrior and survivor. Welcome, saying divide and conquer. Then we have David Zarowski saying Trump and Netanyahu are also terrorists. Lord. We got Bull Monkey. Okay, he said that John, we allow you to be number 1. We got Stanley, welcome, saying a third of a small village got macheted, bullets too expensive. I hadn't heard about that. Interesting. Stephanie says Fox News is nothing but propaganda. Timbu cannot be trusted. The facts is Trump wants the resources. Okay. Then we have there was Roski saying that Trump needs to have a success to make up for the F up in Iran. And then now 847 sent sparkles for 2 jewels. So I don't know what that is, but thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, we got Terrible Time saying Lindsay Scam, what up? Who was Lindsay Scam? I don't know who that is. We have Stanley 66YO saying, David, a lot of Iranians would disagree with you. So we got Johnny Baker saying, you don't allow me $0. I am American. I do what I want. Okay. All right. Oh, it's a lot of comments, y'all. Okay, yeah, I can't read all these. Okay, so I do see real fast that Johnny Baker said number 1, baby. We have Jeffrey Armstrong saying Trump is the best president ever. And we got Human Life for Money saying, are you going to watch more television for political information? Yeah, where else I'm gonna get it from? If you have other resources, let me know. Human Life or Money. Let me know of other resources. So we're going to move a little bit over here. Wait a minute. We have Stephanie saying that Lindsay is from South Carolina, the war junk. Okay. All right. Okay. Y'all know more than I do. I don't know who that is, Lindsay. Maybe I do. Maybe I do. Okay. So next up, we're going to look at Trump's approval rating. I'm sure you guys have an idea of where it's trending, but let's go ahead and get into that, y'all.
Well, tonight, President Trump's war in Iran and rising costs fueled by it are impacting how Americans feel about the economy and his presidency. Trump's approval now at the lowest level of his second term. Only 27% of Americans approve of how he is handling inflation, and 76% now say they're concerned about their personal finances. CBS's Olivia Rinaldi is at the White House with more on our poll and the latest in politics. Olivia, good evening.
Good evening, Jerika. That new poll also found that 69% of Americans say they don't have a clear understanding of the situation in the Strait of Hormuz, as the war is adding to economic concerns here at home.
President Trump visited his Virginia golf club shortly after issuing a new warning to Tehran. The administration's focus on Iran has Americans feeling the pinch. In new CBS News polling, almost 60% of Americans described gas prices in May as a financial hardship. Last week, the president dismissed affordability concerns.
I don't think about Americans' financial situation. I think about one thing. We cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon.
The president doubled down in an interview with Fox in Beijing.
That's right. That's a perfect statement. I'd make it again. When you tell somebody you're going to have to pay a little more, not that much more, a little more for gasoline for a very short period of time, because we want to stop the threat of being blown to pieces by a lunatic, everybody says that's fine.
President Trump ran on an economic revival. Yet nearly 2/3 of the country say his policies are making the economy worse in the short term.
So as soon as we get that straightened out, we will get back to the kitchen table issues.
But the president scored a political win last night, boxing out sitting Republican Senator Bill Cassidy from a runoff in the Louisiana Senate primary. Cassidy voted to convict Trump in his second impeachment trial after the January 6th attack on the Capitol.
When you participate in democracy, sometimes it doesn't turn out the way you want it to. But you don't pout, you don't whine, you don't claim the election was stolen.
The president is hoping for another political win this week, the possible defeat of Republican Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky in his primary on Tuesday. Massie was one of the leaders of the bipartisan push in the House to release the Epstein files. Jerika?
Olivia Rinaldi at the White House. Thank you.
Okay, y'all. So I'm not sure why my camera went out. I'm assuming you guys can still hear me because I see my little thing doing its thing. So what I'll do is we'll go ahead and finish up this set of stuff, and then I'll see if I can get my camera back going. But we're not gonna stop the show, y'all. Bull Monkey said, "Did you pay your electric bill? The lights are gone." Yes, I paid my electric bill. It's just that I don't know. I think my phone had like a little bit of a glitch, and then bam, I wasn't being shown anymore. But I'm gonna do it this way for now, and then I'm probably gonna log out and come back in a second. But I didn't want to, disrupt the show too much. Okay. But yes, y'all. So they're showing that Trump's approval rating has went down a little bit compared to the last assessment, which Trump is very much so concerned about his approval rating. He talks about it somewhat regularly when he does different little press conferences. So we have let's see what we have here. We have Human Life or Money saying television is the peak of propaganda. Okay. Then we have Mark Rowe, welcome back, saying the president doesn't give a damn. He is rich, simple. Then we have Stanley, 66 years old, saying Iranian oil ship sunk, spilling oil. Others leaking due to overfilling. What a mess. All Iran's fault. Then we have Human Life for Money saying OMG. Lazy H. Akers is saying, why did they start trashing the guy named Massey? I don't know. I didn't know about that. We got Murray Gibson saying, been out a month and now you jawing. What's that? All right, Mr. Murray Gibson, welcome to the check-in. We got Dave Zwarowski saying, November is coming, Donald. Mark Roses, you are so gorgeous. Thank you so much. Thank you. So next up, y'all, I know you guys remember the case. It was Mangione, where someone unalived, eliminated, if you will, this big time executive for like a health insurance company. So he had a court case today, and some things were allowed to be part of the trial, and some things were not. So let's go ahead and get into that.
Let's get right to breaking news. A New York judge is ruling to limit the evidence allowed in the state case against the United Healthcare CEO murder suspect. When police arrested him, they seized evidence from his backpack, including the alleged murder weapon and writings investigators say could be considered a confession. But the defense argued the way the police obtained those items was unconstitutional. Now a judge has just decided what the jury will get to see. ABC News legal analyst Brian Buckmeyer and ABC's Peter Haralambous are here with the details on that ruling. So, Peter, it's all about where this evidence was seized, right? Nothing seized at the McDonald's is going to be allowed, but that still leaves a lot of stuff still in. So break this down for us. What's in and what's out?
That's exactly right. It's kind of a mixed bag here based on when they actually found the items in the backpack. And I think the big takeaway is the main items we were concerned about, the gun itself and the writings that prosecutors say amount to a confession. Those were actually found at the police station, a different part of the search. And the judge is saying that prosecutors can use that evidence. However, the judge is limiting some information, the actual items they took from his bag at the McDonald's, specifically the gun magazine, his cell phone, passport, wallet, and a computer chip. All of those are now off the table, according to this judge. So a little bit of a win for Mangione there. But overall, this is a pretty good ruling for prosecutors here.
Brian, what makes some of this evidence admissible and some of it not?
All right, so we're all going to learn a bit about Fourth Amendment right here for a second,
Okay.
right?
Brian's taking us to school.
Let's start off from the idea that warrants are needed to search for things, right? But there are exceptions to not having a warrant. One of them would be exigent circumstance. And when we talked about the video that we saw of Luigi Mangione and that backpack separated from him as they were questioning it, the judge said there was no exigent circumstance to go through the backpack. You needed a warrant at that time. And we saw the video or the picture of Mangione at one table and the bag at another. And because of that separation in New York law, that means that those items are not coming in, specifically the magazine, cell phone, passport, wallet, and computer chip. Now, the judge is saying an inventory search, when law enforcement brings you to the station house or to the precinct and they're looking through your bag to do an inventory and they're taking photos, that was done properly. That doesn't require a warrant because it's one of those exceptions as well. We want to kind of make sure when people get arrested, they don't have bombs or guns inside of their belongings when they are getting processed. So things like the gun or the notebook or the photographs of the notebook, those are all coming in because those are a proper search procedure. And those are probably the more damning pieces of evidence for the prosecution. So mixed bag overall, but I think the prosecution's a little bit happier with this ruling than maybe the defense.
And Brian, it's interesting. You say this won't.
Hold on, let me stop this. So, human life or money. Now, I see your comments where you're saying people that peaked in high school are the ones only watching television for political information. Then you say it's so gross that you just sit in front of a television and let it mold you. You only reach information that already resonates with what you believe. Who are you talking about, human life for money? Because as you can see, if you've been here more than just 10 minutes, I get, clips from various sources, not just from one. So what I do here at the check-in, I don't just limit myself to just one source like Fox News or whoever. I get different perspectives and we do a lot of different panels that we show sometimes too. Now, if this vibe is not for you, you are welcome to depart. Okay? For those who like the vibes, please subscribe. For those who don't like the vibes, please exit. You see what I'm saying? But I just wanted to kind of let you know that because I didn't want you to stay here and think that what you're saying is making sense. It does not. So you're welcome to go. I don't need you messing up my ambiance here. We're here and anybody can be here and give their opinion, whether you're MAGA, not MAGA, liberal, not liberal, it don't matter. You're welcome at the check-in. See what I'm saying? So this is what we're doing. And I'm going to just go ahead and help you out, sir. And you have a blessed day. All right, y'all, let's get back to our program here. Let's keep it going.
Impact the trial, that it'll impact jury selection. Why?
So think about it this way, right? It's about the evidence that can be portrayed. We're clearly all talking about this. People are clearly watching ABC and other networks and watching this. When jury selection happens and they ask the question of, well, did you hear about the magazine or the passport or other things that might have been evidence of flight or criminality? And they say, yeah, I heard about that. Well, did that impact your way you're going to decide this case? Yeah, it kind of does. Those people are off the case now. There won't be in the jury. We're going to find a much more narrow jury who hasn't heard a lot of the evidence so far or the ups and downs.
I don't know how they're going to find some jury people who haven't heard about this Mangione case. Let me ask you guys in the chat here. Have you heard? Are you familiar with this Mangione case? You would have to be living under a rock not to have heard about how this man apparently shot this executive like point blank when he was like leaving his hotel or something like that. Like, who does not know about this? Now, you may not have caught this before. They're saying that because of the sequence of events, like when the policeman saw him at McDonald's, like certain things are not going to be allowed in the case for evidence because they didn't have, say, a warrant in time, that type of thing. So that's kind of what this is about. So there were some things that are going to still be a part of the case as far as evidence for the trial, and there's some things that will not be. So let's keep it going. Craftsman saying, I've heard the name, but it's not coming back to me. Welcome to the check-in, Craftsman. This is the gentleman that ended up unaliving this healthcare professional. He was executive in New York, if I'm not mistaken, like point blank. And then he ended up He was gone for like Luigi. That's his name, Luigi Mangione. You're right, Richard Moorhead. Welcome. His name was Luigi Mangione, and he ended up being located at like McDonald's. Yeah. So let's keep it going. But so far, I've seen that 67% is familiar with the case, or at least heard about what happened, because it was like big news for a while. I don't know if that happened before Charlie Kirk, but they kind of happened not too far off from each other as far as like, the unalivings, if you will. But yeah, let's keep it going.
There being a death penalty, there not being a death penalty, and it's going to come down to people who can either push all of that aside or have heard very little or nothing about this case.
Can you allow a juror who has heard about that evidence but says they don't think it would impact their decision?
I mean, a good attorney has the ability to ask questions and say, hey, maybe this does impact you. Did you have a loved one that maybe had a health insurance scare or an issue that wasn't paid for? Did you hear about this piece of evidence that there was a death penalty and they take it off? Did you see the almost like Gotham-like march of Mangione into New York? You can ask the questions and try to get them pulled off.
But just
we'll
saying,
see.
like, yes, I heard that they found a magazine. Would that get you excluded at this point because of this ruling or not?
The second part would have to be, and that affects my ability to be fair and impartial of this. But of course, there are tricks of the trade to try to get people on or off the jury.
So, Peter, what happens next?
Yeah, the big question at this point is trial date. It's tentatively scheduled for this state murder case to begin on September 8th. Based on this ruling, it doesn't seem like the kind of thing Mangione's lawyers are going to be happy about. We'll have to see if they has to push that at all. And of course, Mangione at this point is facing two basically of the same trial. He has that state case in September, and then he has a federal case for stalking charges in January. So the big question is, how is the judge going to navigate those two, and when's this trial actually going to begin?
All right, Brian Buckmeyer, Peter Haralambous, thank you both.
Okay. So yeah, so I guess the trial is going to be in September. So I'll have to make sure that we get plugged in, because I don't think they have anything else happening between now and then, to my knowledge, that's scheduled for Luigi Mangione. So we have Craftsman saying, is it racist to say it sounds like a mob name? Is it racist to say that Luigi Mangione sounds like a mob name? I don't think it would be considered racist. I don't know. I forgot what, because they're like Italian people usually, right? From the movies, We had Johnny Baker saying, don't go off spouting off at the mouth. The mob don't mess around. They sure don't. Mark Rose, sorry, I don't know anything about this. We're in England. Mark Rose, England. Okay. Understood. Yes. We have Stephanie saying, yes, I'm familiar with the case. The executive of United, yes, thank you, where he would unalive people every day for not approving their insurance of others. Okay. Then we got Johnny Baker saying Trump will pardon him. Richard Moorhead saying Cole was a school teacher who wanted to avenge Epstein victims as part of his manifesto. He was arrested at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Oh, that was his name. I remember that wasn't too long ago. I forgot the man's name. Y'all, it's been so much happening in the news in the last couple of months. My goodness. You know what? For those who are here, I haven't said it yet, but for those who are here, if you like the vibe, please subscribe to the channel. Okay, 16 of you guys right now. Help a sister out. We got Stanley, 66-year-old, saying Epstein victims that were of illegal age. Okay. Let me see something. So I was going to go ahead and end the poll. So 70% of you were familiar of the Mangione case. 30% were not. We're just saying, I was asking, or you're asking, you're asking, was Cole a school teacher who wanted to avenge Epstein victims as per his manifesto? He was arrested at the White House. Yeah, I remember somebody being arrested at the Correspondents' Dinner, but I didn't realize that he was avenging for the Epstein victims. That part went over my head, apparently. But yes, got you. So thank you for the clarification. Yes. So we are going to move over a little bit. Yeah. So you guys may not be familiar, but because I definitely was not. So a few years ago, there was a 6-year-old little boy that ended up shooting his school teacher, I think in the hand and in the chest. And apparently the school administrator had been made aware or had been told about the possibility of a gun, and I guess she did nothing. So we're gonna get into this case. Apparently, there's been some movement. I think they had already did a civil trial, and the lady who was shot ended up getting like $10 million. And so now they're doing a criminal case where if convicted, this lady could get up to I think 40 years in prison. So let's get into that. So we got free call. So it's called a predator or a sheep. Y'all, I don't know about Cole. I don't know about who Cole is. But I might try and look it up while we look at this situation here in regards to the school administrator. Because you guys know that they're now like, hey, there's now holding parents accountable when these kids are bringing guns to school and doing things. So I think them doing this to the school administrator is starting. It's going to be a precedent setter. Okay, let's get into it.
The criminal trial of a former assistant principal in Virginia is now underway. Ebony Parker facing 8 felony counts of child abuse and neglect in connection to the case of a first-grade student shooting his teacher 3 years ago.
Prosecutors allege Parker ignored warnings about the 6-year-old having a gun before that student shot his teacher, Abigail Zwerner, in the hand and chest. Last year, a jury awarded Zwerner $10 million in a civil trial after finding Parker liable in the shooting. NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach joins us now. So, Gary, what are we expecting today during this jury selection process?
Yeah, jury selection is going on as we speak. Judge Rebecca Robinson there in Newport News, Virginia, trying to get this jury down to 12 jurors and 2 alternates. There was a lot of discussion ahead of jury selection over what exactly to ask the jurors during what's called voir dire when they're trying to whittle down to get to the actual jury itself. Of course, Ebony Parker's team wants to make sure there's no teachers or first responders on the jury, because these are people that could be directly impacted or really have a soft spot for what has happened to Abigail Zwerner in this case. This will take a few hours, and then they'll get right into opening statements this afternoon. Virginia prosecutors are going to argue that Ebony Parker showed a willful disregard for human life, specifically the children that were in the classroom with the 6-year-old child who ended up shooting his teacher. Parker's team says this is a tragic situation all around, but it wasn't Dr. Ebony Parker's fault, guys.
Is there a template, Gary, already for this case as we look at the fact that there was already a civil trial here and the types of arguments that both sides are going to be making?
It's going to be very similar, but the potential impact for Ebony Parker is much, much greater. During the civil trial, as you guys mentioned, Abigail Zwerner was awarded $10 million, but that wasn't something that the assistant principal had to pay herself. It was actually paid for by this pool of insurance pool of public bodies across the Commonwealth of Virginia. If Ebony Parker is convicted on 8 counts of child neglect, she could spend up to 40 years behind bars. So significant consequences for Parker. If she's found guilty, we expect this trial to last about 3 days.
All right. Gary Grumbach, we appreciate it. Thank you.
We are going to bring in NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris now. Obviously, Misty, there could be broader implications here and potentially a paradigm shift, right? As you're seeing parents and potentially school employees held accountable for school shootings. We saw this example with Michigan a few years ago and the Crumblies. Is there something that could be sort of paving the way here? Is this an important case in that sense?
It's absolutely an important case. And we've seen a lot of these cases that have really expanded criminal culpability to others outside of just the person who brings that gun in, and specifically with school shootings. So this is a little bit unique because this is a school official. We've seen parents. In fact, in this case, the shooter's mother did plead guilty to a crime. So that's one piece of it. But when you're talking about a school official, there's a case like this in Florida as well. And it's really expanding who could ultimately be held responsible. The standard here, very, very high. Reckless disregard for human life. So you're talking about just completely ignoring a risk and failing to take any action. So it's a very, very high standard under the criminal law.
So in this case, the civil trial came before the criminal trial. Does that have any impact? Does that happen very rarely?
It is so rare because you potentially put yourself in a problem if you're the defendant and the civil case goes first because you don't have the same protection.
Y'all, let me stop real quick. I know you guys have been asking, so I did a little bit of research. You know how we do. And what I found is that in 2023, the child's mother. So let me go back. So apparently, The attorneys for the principal said another student saw the 6-year-old take the gun out of his pocket on the playground, and they reported to a teacher. When the teacher asked to search the child's person, the assistant principal said no. So another student saw the little person, the 6-year-old, take the gun out. The teacher wanted to search the child, and the assistant principal told her no. Okay, so in 2023, the child's mother, Deja Taylor, was sentenced to 2 years in prison on a state charge of felony child neglect and will begin her state sentence after she finishes serving 21 months on a related federal charge. She pleaded guilty to a charge of using marijuana while owning a gun, which is illegal under federal law, and was sentenced in November 2023. During last year's gross negligence trial of Parker, 2 Rich Neck teachers testified that they informed her the students had told them the student had a gun in his backpack. Zwerner's attorneys argued that there was a clear school guidelines that called for Parker to take action once she was told about a possible threat. Parker's lawyer said her client did not have a legal duty to protect Ms. Werner, nor did she volunteer to protect the teacher. Y'all heard that? Okay. So let me see what you guys are saying here in the chat. So David Zarowski said only in the U.S. can a 6-year-old get access to a gun. Rah rah, the NRA. Stephanie said, why would you ignore that and not call the parents for that? Exactly. But apparently the parent be smoking marijuana, and you can't have marijuana and own a gun and all this other stuff, I guess, in Virginia. Interesting. So we said, so Bull Monkey says, 6-year-old kid manages to shoot teacher, and yet 3 full-grown men miss Trump. Bull Monkey. I can't with you. I cannot. So we have Johnny Baker saying it's negligent possession of a firearm, 5 to 10 years in federal penitentiary. We got Mark Walker in the house. Hey. Stephanie says the teacher should not have allowed the student back in her classroom and not have the parents brought into the school. Gotcha. Mark Rosa, how in God's name does a 6-year-old child get a gun? Never mind shooting anyone. Are there no gun laws in your country? It's unbelievable. 6 years old. I mean, it don't seem like we got none here. Johnny Baker says assistant principal needs to be held accountable for turning a blind eye to a possible active shooter. And we got Johnny Vegas saying that the Dems can't shoot. Lord, let's go ahead and finish this up.
Protections on the civil side that you do on the criminal side. For instance, Parker did sit for a deposition, so there's testimony out there potentially. It can impact your ability of whether or not to take the stand, which she did not in the civil case. Her lawyers fought to pause that criminal case before pause the civil case before the criminal case went forward. Yeah. The judge said no. So ultimately, we saw this a bit out of order, but we have a little bit of a preview of what we could expect during the criminal trial.
When you talked about the bar, that reckless endangerment, trying to sort of form the contours of that, is just parents complaining on a regular basis or other students? What would it take to meet that mark?
It is truly a wanton disregard for human life, meaning your actions or your failures to act in this case were so severe that you put people at risk, that you simply ignored something which was a foreseeable risk of potential death. So it is really, really high. It's going to be a lot different than the civil standard. Case is going to play out a bit differently because we heard a lot about Abigail Werner's damages during the civil case. That's not as relevant here. This is going to be all about the timeline. But I think those school officials that we heard testify during the civil case, that's going to set out that timeline during the criminal trial.
It is high bar, but we did hear people did try to warn her that day. So we'll see how that comes into play here.
Let me pause that. Good night, Bull Monkey. Thank you for stopping by. So we got David Zarowski talking about sending a 6-year-old to the White House to save us all. I can't with y'all, okay? We got Johnny Vegas saying 0 to 3, Trump got God's hands over him. Okay? All right, y'all. So let's see. we have the next thing we're going to talk about is the OpenAI lawsuit. So if you guys may have heard, Elon Musk is suing, I guess, the owner of OpenAI. I guess he may have invested in OpenAI when they were like a not-for-profit, but then somehow it switched over to being a for-profit, if you will. So he went to trial about this. I think he wanted to have the owners that own OpenAI to be removed. But we're gonna get into this. What I'm gonna show you first are the closing remarks that they had, because they have the trial been going on, I think, all last week. So let's get into it. We got Caprella in the house. Love you too, dude. Let's keep it going.
The last witness has testified, and lawyers presented closing arguments today in the OpenAI trial, pitting Elon Musk against Sam Altman. Musk sued OpenAI and Altman, alleging they betrayed the company's original nonprofit mission by becoming a for-profit entity. And this verdict could have major implications on OpenAI's future and, frankly, the global AI race. I want to bring in CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson, who has been following this trial very, very closely. Jessica, lawyers had one last chance to make their cases in closing arguments today. What did each side focus on?
In a way, similar things. I think credibility is the whole ball game when it comes to this particular case. Obviously, Musk is arguing here that Sam Altman made an enforceable promise to him about OpenAI, that they didn't just have a aspirational conversation about what they wanted OpenAI to be, but in fact that they had a conversation that this was going to be a nonprofit, it was going to have a specific mission, and that in the course of those conversations, they created an agreement that gave rise to legal duties that could be breached. Sam Altman is basically saying, you can't believe this guy. This is somebody who, even after we started a for-profit, tried to take us over. This is essentially bitter grapes because he wasn't able to take over OpenAI. He created his own AI company instead. And this is about him not being able to get control of a company he wanted to control. So obviously, in terms of the legal issues, they're arguing very different things. But I think at the end, they're both saying, you can't believe that person.
Yeah, it's really interesting to have watched this trial on a daily basis, Jessica. And I want to note, this is a jury trial. And it seemed like each day, I mean, there were days that went on, Jessica, where it seemed like the two sides were frankly competing over which defendant was a bigger jerk. And I'm curious if that really is going to play into the result of this trial.
So I think that sometimes, I mean, that's a great way of putting it. Sometimes it doesn't, right? There are some cases where it's kind of clear, frankly, I think, where the facts and the law bring you. And maybe you don't really like the person who's going to win, but so it goes. In this particular case, I think because so much of it comes down to this, who do you believe? What do you believe was actually discussed? And what do you believe was promised versus what was said is like, this is what we're going to try and do. I think that the jury's views of Elon Musk and Sam Altman could potentially make a difference here. Again, unlike some other cases where maybe the likability doesn't and the credibility doesn't come into play as much.
Yeah, it was really hard to have empathy for either of these gentlemen during this trial. Now, if Elon Musk wins, what are the ramifications to OpenAI in the wider AI race?
So that potentially huge. If Elon Musk wins, I mean, he's essentially asking for OpenAI to be restructured, and that would be hugely significant in ways that I frankly can't even begin to detail in terms of how you would try and break it up and put it back together. Also, of course, Elon Musk is asking for an enormous amount of money. So in terms of the repercussions, I would say for OpenAI, significant. In terms of AI companies in general, this case is not about whether, AI can continue and these companies can continue to innovate and what regulations will be on them. This is a very specific conversation between Sam Altman and Elon Musk, whether or not they created this essentially charitable trust that was breached. And it doesn't have implications, I would argue, therefore, for AI writ large.
And Jessica, we're also waiting for the Supreme Court to decide how it wants to handle the abortion drug mifepristone, that combination. What can you tell us?
So what the court is really going to do is to, I think, figure out what rule is going to be in place while this case continues. And specifically, there was a decision by a circuit court last week that said, we want to pause that rule that allows women to be able to obtain mifepristone through telehealth appointments and then through the mail. So the big question for the court, I think, will be, does that pause stay in place while this case plays out? The second question will be, does the Supreme Court say, okay, we're going to hear this case on an expedited basis, or will they essentially send it back to the lower courts and say, let this keep playing out?
Jessica Levinson, thanks.
Okay, y'all. So let me tell you what you guys said in the chat here. I didn't want to stop it. So we have Stephanie saying this Elon Musk loves to buy up companies where he knows he can get it to do exactly what Sam did. We got Mark Rowe. Okay, he removed his comment. We have this one though. Have these rich idiots nothing better to do? Yet Elon Musk is too busy starving Africans for fun, pathetic, said Nazi. Then Craftsman saying, how is Elon starving Africa and how is his responsibility? We got David Zabrowski saying Musk probably want China to win the AI battle as his biggest factory is in China. Didn't know that. Let's see. It was a 3-week trial, y'all. I couldn't believe that. We got 70 saying Elon Musk makes me sick and this guy could never or should be trusted. We got Johnny saying, David, like what you be thinking about? David, shoot, like what you be thinking should be reviewed by the FBI, needs to investigate. Lord, y'all something else. So now we're gonna have let's see, some opinions regarding what may happen with this trial from a trial attorney. Let's get into this, y'all.
All right, it is now time for a jury to decide who will win in the legal battle of friends turn foes in the world of AI, Elon Musk and Sam Altman.
They were friends.
And this isn't just a legal dispute. It is very personal. The two were allies when Musk contributed roughly $38 million to Altman's nonprofit research lab.
Let me tell you, if somebody gave me $38 million, I'm going to be their best friend too. $38 million that he contributed? Okay. Let's keep it going. Now we're talking about some money here, yes.
Later turned into the for-profit OpenAI. Their bitter rivalry showed in the 3-week trial that wrapped on Thursday, where Musk's lawyers argued that the tech billionaire was duped out of his money and accused Altman and his executives of retreating on their founding mission. Altman and his lawyers arguing Musk is simply a frustrated commercial competitor. Well, now the advisory jury will be deliberating, and Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers will be deciding if Altman stole a charity, as Musk's lawyers claim. Well, if the court sides with Musk and finds Altman liable, it could radically reshape OpenAI as we know it today. So to break all of this down, we are joined by trial attorney and legal analyst Randolph Rice. Randolph, it's always great to have you here. There were so many twists and turns to this. I mean, we saw Sam Altman showing up in person day one of all of this. His team wanted the jurors to see him as a real person, not just this very wealthy man. Did his team succeed here? Because we see Musk's team painting Altman as untrustworthy, as prone to lying to his co-founders, his employees, his board members. How do these two men look to this jury?
Well, they both actually looked really bad to this jury, in my opinion. They seem to be airing a lot of their personal grievances through their attorneys, asking very personal questions about things that really had nothing to do with the case itself. But it was just seemed to be like two children in court who wanted to show the other one that they're better than the other person there.
Yikes. I mean, OpenAI president, meanwhile, Greg Brockman, he kept these stream of consciousness style diaries. I mean, all of these real-time machinations written down. How important was that diary at the end of the day in this case? And do you think that people across Silicon Valley are burning their diaries as we speak tonight?
I think there might be a lot of people burning diaries in their fireplaces tonight, because this is something that always gets used in court, right? When you write something down and you make a note of it, they can bring it back up and use it against you. But it had been helpful here because it was able to get real information that was kept in real time as it was happening.
Yeah, what did those diaries end up showing? Did it help or hurt Elon Musk's case?
He had a diary?
Well, that's really the question for the jury tomorrow. They're obviously going to figure out. But I certainly think this probably hurt a little bit because it was an exact sort of running log as to what was going on. And remember, this is something that they're arguing over who owned this company, when it was turned into a for-profit charity. Was Elon Musk really entitled to this? And it has serious consequences if Musk wins.
What are those serious consequences?
Yeah. So the possibility if Musk wins could be that he could remove Altman as the CEO. It may shake up that whole OpenAI company, which would have drastic effects on its development as it goes forward. So there are real consequences to this jury's decision.
You know, the jury gets to make a recommendation, but really it's the judge who's going to decide this. And at one point she said, quote, "I suspect there are plenty of people who wouldn't like to put the future of humanity in Mr. Musk's hands." What do you think her impression is of Altman and Musk at the end of this? And what is she likely to decide here?
Yeah, I think she's probably thinking they're acting like a couple of kids that are just upset. You know, they took their toys out of the sandbox and weren't happy that they weren't getting to play. And that seems to be the opinion, or at least that impression that she's given to the outside world in these statements.
What could happen to OpenAI if the judge finds Altman liable here? Are we going to see it turn back into a nonprofit? And also, no matter what, is this just going to be an appeal? and is this going to keep going and going and going?
Yes, if one side, look, no side's going to be happy whatever they get, but one side's going to be less happy, and they're ultimately going to be filing appeals until this probably goes up to the Supreme Court, which will just be even much bigger mess and more of their grievances aired in the public.
All right, so I had looked up some information, y'all. And y'all, Johnny Vega he's now number 2, but he'll get back to number 1, I'm sure. And so apparently they did come back with a decision today regarding this OpenAI trial. And apparently it says that according to NBC News, it says that a federal jury found Monday that tech billionaire Elon Musk waited too long to bring his lawsuit against OpenAI CEO Sam Altman and others, throwing out the suit, claiming Altman had unlawfully enriched himself from the organization Musk and Altman co-founded. So they said he waited too long to bring the lawsuit. It says that this verdict means Altman co-founder Greg Brockman and OpenAI are not liable on all claims at the blockbuster 3-week trial that has captivated the tech industry and could have reshaped the race to develop artificial intelligence. So Elon Musk lost the trial because he waited too long to bring this forward. All right. So we got Stephanie saying, Elon Musk, it's your fault you did not put it in a contract before to state you wanted to keep the AI nonprofit and not turning it to a profit keeper. Elon saw how the AI is moving in the public. We got Charles Xavier saying, majority are brainwashed sheep in a morally declining society. Welcome to the check-in. We got Art Mosaic. Welcome to the check-in. Test fight with fire and fire. Okay. We have Charles Xavier saying, are you for Trump? New here. I am neutral. That's my position. Neutral. I speak, I don't discriminate on what people put in the comments. And I'm going to try to provide the most neutral perspective that it comes to the news and let people make their own assessment. We're here looking at the news, reacting together, and having a good time. So, like I tell people, if you like the vibe, please subscribe, okay? Yes. We got John Vega saying, dang, gotta put down the pipe and pick up on my comments. Thank you, Mr. Johnny. He said, good answer. Thank you. Yeah, that's the truth, though. Yeah, thank you. We got Dave Zarowski saying Musk smells terrible. Lord. We got Mark Rose saying this guy is making me laugh because he is right. Who was right? Did I miss something? Then we got Craftsman saying that sounds like a political comment. What's the comment? Okay, Mark Rose says like he doesn't have enough money already. You started the company together and now you're bickering like you dropped your ice cream. Hey, that was $30 million ice creams, wasn't it? Yes, honey. So we're gonna move on, y'all. So I don't know if you guys knew because I didn't know, but there was a whole Rededicate 250 event here in the DC area out there on the National Mall. Okay, so I didn't know about it till today. It was yesterday. But I want to show you guys this opening speech that Trump gave. It was more like a prayer, if you will. So let's go ahead and check this out.
Thus Solomon finished the house of the Lord and the king's house, and all that came into Solomon's heart to make in the house of the Lord, and in his own house he prosperously effected. And the Lord appeared to Solomon by night and said to him, I have heard your prayer and have chosen this place to myself for a house of sacrifice. If I shut up heaven, that there be no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Now my eyes shall be open and my ears attent to the prayer that is made in this place. For now I have chosen and sanctified this house, that my name may be there forever, and my eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually. And as for you, if you will walk before me, as David your father walked, and do according to all that I have commanded you, and shall observe my statutes and my judgments, then will I establish the throne of my kingdom according to as I have covenanted with David your father, saying, there shall not fail you as a man to be ruler in Israel. But if you turn away and forsake my statutes and my commandments, which I have set before you, and shall go and serve other gods and worship them, then will I pluck them up from the roots out of my land which I have given them, and this house which I have sanctified for my name will I cast out of my sight, and will make it to be a proverb and a byword among nations. And this house which is high shall be an astonishment to every one that passes by it, so that he shall say, why has the Lord done thus to this land and to this house? And it shall be answered, because they forsook the Lord God of their fathers, which brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, and laid hold on other gods, and worshiped them and served them. Therefore has he brought all this evil upon them.
Okay, y'all, that was the prayer that I guess he did to start things off yesterday. Now, some of y'all are funny. Somebody said, Art Mosaic said he going to hell. Then we got Charles Xavier saying he's a liar, always lying. Then we got Art Mosaic saying he doesn't know the Bible, need to shut up. Okay. Then we got Healing Through Energy saying Joshua chosen Trump for the job of the spiritual war. Just while God supports and loves our president, Trump follows just while direction divine is in charge. Okay. Let's see. We have David Zabrowski saying, so no, he said I had nothing to do with this declaration. No, David said. Johnny Vegas said, so are we all what different UNL declaration of homosexuality? Where you get the homosexuality from? Did I miss something? We got Stephanie saying that prayer is for the Israelites. But yes, y'all, so he did his opening prayer for this 250 Rededicate 250. And then here's a little bit of a recap of the event from yesterday. Let's get into it.
Today was just a taste of what's going to be a busy, busy summer here in our nation's capital. All in the same day, we saw thousands of people gathered on the National Mall to celebrate graduating students at George Washington University, right there at the bottom of your screen. Just a few blocks away, another crowd gathered for the official kickoff to our nation's 250th anniversary. And yes, there were protesters pushing back on what they saw today. It was quite the Sunday here in Washington, D.C., and we appreciate you being here with us in the final hour of it. Good evening, everybody. I am Joseph Olmo. Let's show you what happened in D.C. today, starting with what was called Rededicate 250. It was a religious event that drew some of the country's most prominent faith leaders. News 4's Amy Cho was also there, and she spoke with people who traveled from all over the nation to be there in person.
Throughout the day, we have been talking to people from around the country who traveled here to D.C. to attend the Rededicate.
Y'all, I must be under a rock because I had no knowledge about Rededicate 250, and I live in this area. I had no idea this was going on. I could have went live from out there had I thought about it, but had I known about it, but it's okay. Let's keep it going.
250 event. Many of them were saying how meaningful it is to be able to come together in this way to pray and share their faith along the National Mall.
Rededicating this land back to the Lord. That is so important, this divine reset. I came in from Texas just to be a part of this.
I pray for our nation every day, and I thank God for President Trump and all the people that can get together here and pray and worship him.
We have a prayer group every morning, 6 to 7. So we pray for this event every single day for weeks.
Over the course of 9 hours, speakers included members of the Trump administration and Christian faith leaders.
From the beginning, we have carried the belief that our country represents something new in the world. But the soul of our nation has always been rooted.
Morning, 6 to 7. So we pray for this event every single day for weeks.
Over the course of 9 hours, speakers included members
this.
of the Trump administration and Christian faith leaders.
From the beginning, we have carried the belief that our country represents something new in the world. But the soul of our nation has always been rooted in an ancient faith.
One Camp Mystic counselor also spoke about the terrifying moments when she helped lead campers out of the floods.
I remember losing all
Texas,
hope
right?
and feeling completely alone. When my soul stirred my voice to sing the song, Good, Good Father, under my breath. And by the grace of God, the water stopped rising and it started to recede.
Other speakers included a rabbi and several Catholic faith leaders, but the lineup did not feature anyone from other religions like Islam, Buddhism, or Hinduism. Several attendees tell News 4 they hope to spread Christianity around the country.
That's our hope, is that everybody will come to recognize him as the Lord and Savior.
I really feel that this whole day and everything that's going to happen here is really ordained by the Lord himself.
The next Freedom 250 celebration will be in a week, honoring Memorial Day at Arlington National Cemetery. Amy Cho, News 4.
All right, Amy, thank you. As you saw there, Rededicate 250 attracted thousands of people, but just outside of where the crowds gathered for that event, there were some people protesting it. A small group of demonstrators came out, many of whom said they didn't feel like the prayer event was inclusive of all religions. Two organizations, Freedom from Religion Foundation and Faithful America, were part of this protest. Here's what one person told News 4 about why she took issue with Rededicate 250. Take a listen.
It's totally contrary to the Bill of Rights, to the First Amendment, and the separation of state and church.
And it sounds like the protests will continue. A group of clergy.
Contrary to the Bill of Rights, to the First Amendment, and the separation of state and church.
And it sounds like the protests will continue. A group of clergy members are planning a demonstration outside the White House tomorrow night.
And as part of its plan to combat these rising prices, the White House is considering a pause on beef tariffs, a move that some American farmers are criticizing. For more, I'm joined by Angela Huffman, president of the watchdog group Farm Action. Angela, thank you for joining me. Now, the administration's basic argument seems to be that beef prices are high, so let more imported beef in and increase supply. Why do you believe that would not translate into lower prices for families at the grocery store?
Well, the administration is treating beef imports like a quick fix for grocery prices, but more imports are not going to solve the real problem. And that is that 4 meat packers control 85% of U.S. beef processing. 4 grocery giants control more than 2/3 of the grocery market. And when those few companies control the entire supply chain, it's essentially a monopoly. They do not have to pass savings on to consumers. So this is why lowering tariffs, bringing in more beef, might not lower prices at the grocery store. Without real competition, it could just mean higher profits for those corporations in the middle.
Okay, so you point to consolidation in the beef industry, saying 4 major meat packers control roughly 85% of U.S. beef processing. But if consumers are paying too much right now, why not use every available tool, including imports, while also going after consolidation?
Well, the issue is whether those price reductions will get passed on to consumers, and that's where my concern is, because the companies that are best positioned to actually benefit from these lower tariffs and expanded imports are not American ranchers or American consumers. They are these global meatpacking giants. For example, 2 of the 4 biggest meat packers operating in the United States are Brazilian owned. So if more imported beef enters the U.S. market, those companies are in the position to process it, sell it, and profit from it. So in a market this concentrated, it's likely to be the meat packers capturing those savings and not getting passed on to consumers.
And what is the clearest evidence that those savings wouldn't essentially get passed, wouldn't actually see by the consumers? What's the evidence there?
Well, we've seen it time and time again. There have been just a continuous flow of price fixing cases and settlements where these meatpacking corporations are being accused of essentially price fixing and rigging the market and not passing on those costs to consumers. So we've seen it over the last several years playing out just this way. So with that evidence, we just don't expect a different outcome here now.
Okay, and some people watching may say, if Brazilian beef is cheaper, why should American consumers pay more to protect U.S. ranchers? How do you make the case that this is not just about protecting producers, but about the long-term stability of the food system?
Sure. Well, more imported beef really does give meat packers more leverage over U.S. ranchers. And we really need to be focused on more food security here at home. So when meat packers can bring in more imported beef, they're able to use that supply to push down the price that they pay to American ranchers who have already been through years of drought and high costs and unfair markets. So, this plan could end up with U.S. ranchers getting paid even less. Like I said, consumers paying more, meat packers making greater profits, and really eroding our food security over time.
All right, Angela Huffman, thank you.